Hello, we are starting week 3 today, and so I want to go over some things about the new essay that you are writing. So you have finished the summary essay, and now we're moving on to the critique essay. So if you start with module 3.1, it gives you a to-do list to critique, to read all of the critique essay materials, to read chapter 5 from a sequence for academic writing, discuss the chapter 5 reading on the discussion board, and then post your critique essay rough draft in your small groups, and then begin to work on your outline. Okay, so let's move on to 3.2. So you'll see there's lots of information for you to look over here. Let's look at the chapter 5 lecture notes quickly. So critiquing, we're going to talk about, is basically examining an author's piece and deciding whether or not it lives up to the purpose that that piece is supposed to do. So an author's purpose can fall into 3 categories: to inform, to persuade, or to entertain. And when we think about the different works that we've read or that we're going to read, they usually fall into one of those 3 categories. And this is just the Module 3 folder that I'm referring to here. You have 2 articles that I want you to read this week. You're only going to write your essay over one of those articles. You're not going to write it over both, but you do need to read both, because I would hate for you to only read one and then go back and be like, oh, I wish I would have read that one later. So read both articles. And then ask these questions to determine what the purpose of the article is. Is it writing to inform? Is the information accurate? Is it important? Is the information interpreted fairly? So if the purpose is to write to inform, you want to keep these questions in mind. Okay. If the purpose is to persuade, then you want to keep these questions in mind. Does the author use clearly defined terms? Does the author use information fairly? Does the author avoid logical fallacies? And you can check pages 82 through 85, explaining on how to avoid logical fallacies. If the author doesn't follow these guidelines well, then you have reasons to suspect that they are not successful in his or her purpose. And then writing to entertain. So the pieces that we're going to read this week, the purpose is not to entertain, okay? I'll let you determine if it's to inform or to persuade, but it is not to entertain. But one of the questions would be, obviously you need to be entertained by it. The second one would be, to what extent do you agree with the author? And then from there, you'll work on your outline. So here's kind of a sample outline for this paper. Okay, you're going to have your introduction paragraph. That's what you will start with. Give some kind of background on the article. You might have to do some digging on the author or authors regarding their background. You could also give some information about why the article was written in the first place, what was the need for the article. You will always need to have at least 5 complete sentences in your introduction. You also need to end it with your underlined thesis statement, so make sure that is included. Body paragraph 1, you're going to summarize the article. Okay, you're going to use the skills that we learned from chapter 1, talking about summary writing. We don't need to go into a lot of depth, but you do need to include at least 2 pieces of evidence from the article in this paragraph. I would recommend that you paraphrase those. You are allowed 1 direct quote for this essay, but I would recommend that you paraphrase both pieces of evidence in your summary paragraph. Body paragraphs 2 and 3 are going to state whether or not you agree with the author. Okay, so you could have a combination of agree or disagree. You could have both body paragraphs agreeing, or both body paragraphs 2 and 3 disagreeing, or you could have one body paragraph 2 might agree, and body paragraph 3 might disagree. Okay, I would save your direct quote that you get for one of those paragraphs. Each of those paragraphs will need 2 pieces of evidence in those as well from the article. So you'll have a total of 6 pieces of evidence referenced from the article in your essay, and one of those can be directly quoted. So you're summarizing in the first body paragraph. In body paragraphs 2 and 3, you are stating whether or not you agree with the author based on what they have written. And then your evidence would be your support of what you agree or disagree with. Okay. Your conclusion. On page 87, the authors of the textbook mention assumptions and what assumptions the article or text leads you to have after you have read it. So you are not summarizing your essay in this conclusion. Okay, you are giving us assumptions. You are giving us the things that you now think about this topic now that you've read the article. Okay, I know it's a little bit different from earlier conclusions that you have used for other essays, but this paragraph actually will show what you think in conclusion to reading the article. Okay, if you want to sum up some strengths and weaknesses of the article, that is fine, but make sure that you are including those further assumptions. Do not start the paragraph with "in conclusion." Okay, so the last paragraph, I know it's your conclusion paragraph, so don't start it with "in conclusion." That is redundant. Okay. Again, my advice is to read both articles, because you might just click with one article more than you do a different one, so read both of them. Okay. For your thesis statement, when you go to write your thesis statement, I would recommend including 2 points. Okay, 2 points. The author's purpose and your opinion of the author's purpose, keeping in mind that you can't use first person pronouns. Okay, so I'm going to show you with this example what I mean by this. Okay, so my example that I have that I'm using is Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech. So my thesis statement is, in the speech, "I have a dream. Martin Luther King Jr. correctly persuades the country and all listeners to treat people of different races equally." Now, that is a super general and like reductive thesis statement, because obviously "I Have a Dream" does way more than that. That is a very simple thesis statement for you to have an example of. Okay. So here's your outline format, which you have a separate document you can copy and paste this to. Note that your outline is due Wednesday, February 2nd, and then your essay is due February 12th. And then I have a sample outline included for you as well. Okay. Always remember to go back and look at those grammar and punctuation expectations. That is always something good to go and look at just as you're starting to write the paragraphs again. Okay. All right. So both articles are listed here. Okay. This document goes over how to use in-text, parenthetical citation, and paragraph formatting. Oh, are you kidding me? Stop that. Come on now. There we go. Okay, so you'll notice that the first article, for Article 1, it lists several authors. So when you're going to introduce them, you will use a Lang et al. Et al. Is Latin for and others and all the rest. So if you're going to use parenthetical citation, you would use this kind of format. You're going to use the page numbers that are listed on the PDFs themselves, and not like these PDF numbers up here. Okay. The actual like 662, whatever those numbers are. Okay. The second article, there's only one author. His name is Jones. So your parenthetical would just be his last name and then the page numbers listed. So I've given you all of the different possible formats that you might have for direct evidence with the introducer and the parenthetical. So this would be your introducer or signal phrase. I call them introducers. And this is the parenthetical. Okay. That gives you that information. If you're paraphrasing, obviously it's going to look a little bit different, but you still are going to need a parenthetical. If you're paraphrasing, you still need a parenthetical. Okay. If you want to say like a Lang et al. Show that yada yada yada, okay, then in your parenthetical you would still just have the page numbers. If you use the author's name at the beginning, you don't need it at the end. So that's the same thing for a piece of evidence that's directly quoted or paraphrased. Okay. This gives you the sentence structure that I am looking for. Okay. If you took me for 101, then you've seen this before. If you haven't, this is what I am expecting you to follow. Okay. If you don't follow it, you will lose points. Okay. You are at least a junior or senior in high school, so I expect you to be able to read through this and understand it. And if you don't understand it, send me an email and we will talk about it. Okay. But it's very, very important that you follow this structure for your body paragraphs. Okay. I've also included the rubric. You'll see it here. Papers with 110 points. So be sure that you do all that it says to do. 6 total pieces of evidence. I'm allowing you 2 direct quotes. I wasn't sure what I let you do in this essay. So you can have 2 direct quotes. So that's helpful. At least 2 pages long, no longer than 4 pages. And then I I need to fix this, and I will fix this. I need to add the works cited page for this, because if you are citing something, you obviously have to have a works cited page, and you'll be citing one of those articles. The article citations are listed here. They're already cited for you, so just copy and paste them over, okay? Let's look at, let's go to, I'm going to skip the discussion boards really quick. Okay, here's your outline. So the template is included here. So this is your outline template. The example is here for you. You'll copy and paste all of this part over to its own document and then turn that in, okay? I need to know what article you're writing over. That is super important for when I go to grade your outline, okay? So like I said, I will change the rubric to reflect the works cited page entry, and I will adjust those points, and then that is all I can think of for this week. If you have any questions, send me an email, and I will let you get started working.